All right, class. So we're going to try to do what we can for video recording. A lot of you are new to the class. You've never had me before as a professor. So if you haven't had lab with me before, please don't stress. It's not a big deal. What I'm going to have for you is I'm going to have this mini lecture. This is going to be followed by two packets, which you have in my courses. You can print them, you can download them, you can do them on your tablet, you can print them and fill them out yourself. It really doesn't matter, whichever way you prefer with these two packets. So you're going to have a study guide, and then you're going to have a lab packet. And after you go through the two of those, what you're going to have is you're going to have an assignment in the quiz section of my courses. Now, I don't want you to literally think of this as a quiz. This is really not a big deal. It's just easier to put these assignments in the quiz section of my courses. Why? Well, because the quiz section of my courses just has the right format for these assignments. And you're going to have multiple chances to get it right. I usually give students 2 or 3 chances, and it should tell you right within the module how many chances you get. It's usually multiple choice or select all that apply. It's very straightforward. There are going to be some labs that do have a discussion, but today it's just it'll be multiple choice. So you can literally do this lab, get your grade back within about an hour. And I apologize that I'm not able to be on camera. I've had issues with PowerPoint recently, so I'm going to try to just record this by audio, and hopefully everything works out okay. So let's talk about the skeletal system. Why do we care about the skeletal system? Well, skeletal system does a lot of things for us. It's made out of bones, cartilage, and tendons and ligaments. Without the skeleton, we wouldn't be able to really move properly. Um, if I didn't have a skeleton, I would just basically be a blob on the floor. And I wouldn't really be able to do much. Maybe I could contract my muscles and kind of wiggle around a little bit. And hopefully, some students will be nice and throw Professor Muse some Skittles every once in a while, and then I can wiggle over. But without the skeletal system, our body doesn't have the support that it needs. So all terrible, terrible, terrible jokes aside, what do we have? So right here we got a diagram showing a lot of the cartilage. So you got cartilage between your discs in the intervertebral disc right between your vertebrae. So literally intervertebral disc, it tells you what it is. This is a joint between each of your vertebrae. You also have cartilage right here in your rib cage, so connecting your sternum to your ribs, and this allows your rib cage to expand and contract. And you've got cartilage here in your nose, got cartilage in your ears, as you guys have all been well aware of, I'm sure, since you were like 5 years old. And you've got some articular cartilage right here in the ball and socket joint. You've also got some cartilage right here in your hinge joint, and there's some cartilage right here in this other hinge joint of your knee. So there's different kind of cartilage out there. You have a key right here: hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. And we'll keep talking about that a little more as we go in class. So functions. Skeletal system is a support structure. That way you don't have to wiggle around on the floor. It's protection. So here we have the rib cage protecting the various organs. You also have the skull protecting the organs of your brain. And I'm sure your pelvis has some protective features around your bowels and reproductive organs. I mean, it might not be quite as secure as your rib cage, but it's better to be hit in the side of your hip and have your hip be hit rather than having it impact your bladder, your prostate, your uterus, whatever it is that is housed down here. So also to store minerals. So calcium is actually used for a lot of things in the body, not just for your bones. It's used for various transport molecules, as we learned about in Human Biology 1. And if you didn't take Human Biology 1, that is okay. That is why I give you a bit of a recap. It's also for the formation of blood cells. So both red and white blood cells begin their development in the bone marrow. There are some immune cells that have an unusual developmental pathway, but for the most part, the key players that we typically think of in the immune system at least begin their development in the bone marrow, and they might migrate elsewhere to complete their maturity. So right here, we have a nerve. We've also got an artery and a vein running through the center of a bone. And here, of course, we have the central canal. We've got lacunae, which are where the osteocytes like to live. So here we've got the osteocyte inside of the lacunae. I typically think of the osteocyte. So osteo means bone, cyte means cell, so literally bone cell. Osteocytes are the mature bone cell. And this may or may not be helpful to you, but I typically think of them as almost like this little creature living in the side of a rock wall. I mean, how helpful that is to you, I mean, some people think in those terms and some people don't. So, take it for what it is, or leave it if you find it confusing. So there's also canaliculus. So these are tiny little canal channels connecting the different lacunae where the osteocytes like to live. So that's a pretty good overview of what we have here. And then right here, we are seeing a zoom in on the side of the bone right here. So this edge of the bone. So right here, we have the periosteum. So it's this outer portion of the bone. You got a fibrous layer and a cellular layer, and we've got some fibers right here, and it says external circumferential laminella, or laminae, and so right here, it'll kind of tell you what it is and what it does. So it's circular, it's going around the outside, it's just underneath the periosteum, and then you have an osteon right here, so this circular structure, and these will end up making up the bones. And of course, you have a central canal going through these. So you have the central canal right here and right here, and then you have the smaller canals, the canaliculus right here, which connect the various osteocytes to one another. So, as I said, osteocytes are bone cells. The matrix are the minerals and fibers for strength. So in between these cells, you have this laminae, or this matrix right here, and this is going to support the bone. And don't assume that the laminae are the entire matrix, because matrix is basically everything here that's for structural support, that makes up the bone, but it's not the cells themselves. So you've got cells, and then you've got the matrix in between the cells. So you can almost think of it like here's two cells, and then the matrix is all of that material that supports them and connects them to one another. So classification of bone. There's compact bone, which is smooth and hard, and there's spongy bone, which are thinner plates of bones around spaces filled with bone marrow. So you got some spongy bone right here, and it kind of looks like a sponge, so it'll tell you exactly what it is. Periosteum, which is the outer layer of bone. There's some compact bone right here. So you've got the compact bone, you've got the spongy bone, and then you've got the medullary cavity right here, and there can be some bone marrow in there, and articular cartilage right here. So these names will tell you exactly what they are. So it's cartilage and it's articular. So articulation means that it moves. If you are into 3D printing and you want to 3D print, say, an articulated octopus, it means you're printing an octopus with movable parts. So articular means that it moves, and cartilage means, well, that it's cartilage. So right here we've got the proximal epiphyses. So The epiphyses are the ends of the long bone, so this is the distal epiphyses right here. So proximal means it's closer, distal means it's further away. So we get kind of this dog bone shape right here. We've got the diaphyses in the middle and the two epiphyses at the end. So these ends parts are called epiphyses and the diaphyses here in the middle. And don't be surprised if you hear these terms pronounced different ways. That's fine. As long as they're spelled correctly, that's the main thing. So right here we've got the terms epiphyses, expanded end of the long bones, and ligaments are connective tissue that connects bone to bone, not to be confused with tendons, which is connective tissue that connects bone to muscle. So when I was in school, we, believe it or not, in the 7th grade, we dissected chicken wings from Wegmans. For what it was chicken wings. It is what it is. Silly, yes, but the science teacher showed us how to pull on the tendons to make the wing move. So there were little tendons that would attach to muscle you could pull on, and then that could make the little chicken wing move by pulling on the bone. Bones of the skull. So this is something that is important to know if you happen to have lecture with me. We've briefly gone over this, and most of you have lecture with me. And right here we have the various bones of the skull. You'll see, well, you're going to see the labels here pretty soon. So you got the frontal, got the temporal, occipital, parietal, um, mandible, maxilla. And so we have the bones of the skull here. It's a little bit cut off in terms of the names. Not a big deal because we'll see that on the next slide. So the cranium are 8 bones that enclose the skull. A suture is a joint connecting the cranial bones. So you got the suture right here. This is a type of joint. It is immovable. And you'll also hear this called a fibrous joint, as we will see later on. So facial bones, so bones of the face. So right here we got the bones of the cranium, and we'll see them labeled here shortly. Parietal, so you've got 2 of these. They're right up here. Occipital is in back, and one way to remember these, I can't really show you because we're not on video, but if you take your hands and place them on the various parts of your head, then it's easy to remember the different parts of the skull. So you got the frontal here, so it's in front, so you can literally put your hand on your forehead, frontal bone, forehead, and the area behind it. Parietal's up here, occipital's in back. Temporal, that's your temples, and you can also remember it by think of time, so temporal can also mean time. If you're a science fiction fan, you could say, oh, there was a temporal anomaly. And that involves things with like time travel or bending time. And as people get older, one of the ways to remember this is hair might turn white or gray in this part of your head first. But, I mean, don't take that too literally because I've talked with people about this and, well, your hair can start changing color just about anywhere. So it's not it's not the best way to remember. But you could think of somebody who's starting to get older and they're starting to get white hair around here. So temporal. You have the sphenoid bone right here, ethmoid bone right here, got a nasal bone up here, and all right, so now we have the facial bones. So we have right here the lacrimal bone. So lacrimal refers to tears, so it's exactly where you would expect it to be. Nasal bone, well, nasal refers to nose, so that's exactly where you'd expect it to be. So you got the maxilla right here, the upper jaw, mandible or the lower jaw, and you got the zygomatic right here. So that's one that might be a little harder to remember, but these are your facial bones. So vertebral column, or the spine. So we have several different groups of vertebrae, And these are going to begin with your cervical vertebrae. So these are the vertebrae of your neck. Thoracic vertebrae, so these are the vertebrae that would be more behind your chest. Lumbar is lower back. So you can think cervical vertebrae is neck, thoracic vertebrae is like thorax, lumbar. Well, that's your lower back. People always talk about lumbar support. You have the sacrum right here, which connects, which is part of your pelvis. And then you have the coccyx right here, which is sometimes referred to as the tailbone. Now, your textbook keeps saying that the coccyx has no function. Something went wrong somewhere with the editing. Somebody messed something up there because your coccyx, from an evolutionary perspective, it's would have reduced over time. Um, However, it does objectively have a function. So it has many functions. It's important for anchoring various muscles involved in bowel movement, involved in reproduction. If you were offered all of the money in the world to have your coccyx removed, you would not take it. So I'm not sure why the textbook keeps saying in several different places that the coccyx has no function. If you go on Google, look at any reputable medical website, you will see the various functions of the coccyx listed out. So the cervical vertebrae, well, it's not 24, so we have 24 single vertebrae here. Your intervertebral discs are made of cartilage and have shock absorbers. And let's load the rest of this. So 24 vertebrae, intervertebral discs are made of cartilage and they have shock absorbers. The sacrum and coccyx are down here, of course, and curvatures. So we have the rib cage here, so you have the ribs and the sternum. The sternum or the breastbone, it kind of looks like the tie, like a man's tie when he's wearing a suit. You've got ribs right here, and these ribs will protect your various organs here. And they're also important in terms of expanding and contracting when you breathe. So your chest expanding and contracting to move air in and out of your lungs. Obviously, that's an important function. So you've got the shoulder and the upper extremities, or your arm. So you've got your clavicle here, or your collarbone, your scapula here, or your shoulder blade, your humerus, which is your upper arm bone, and there is a bit of a misnomer. There's a nerve right about here in your elbow that's sometimes called the funny bone, but it's actually not a bone, it's a nerve. So your funny bone connects to your humerus. You can take what you like from that. You've also got your ulna and your radius. Now, part of the way you can remember these is your thumb is next to your radius, and your ulna is opposite your thumb. So your ulna is connected on the side that your pinky is on. So you've also got carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. So carpals are the bones of the wrist, not going to be confused with tarsals, which would be in the ankle of your foot. You got metacarpals here, which make up your palm, and your phalanges, which make up your fingers. So on your feet, you would have tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. So your shoulder girdle, or your joint, right in here, flexible, it's movable. So you got a ball and socket joint. You got the bones of the arm, bones of the forearm, as we've discussed. Bones of the hand include the phalanges or fingers, metacarpals or your palm, and pelvis and lower extremities. So you got the femur, patella is your kneecap, you got your tibia, and you got your fibula right here. Now the fibula is thinner. You can think of a fib can be very thin and more easily broken. So it is what it is. So pelvic girdle up in here. It's strong, weight bearing, bones of the thigh, calf, and foot. So the bones of the pelvic girdle are the only skeletal bones where there are differences between male and female for childbearing. Now, this doesn't mean that other bones in the human body aren't different between males and females. However, if you are looking at a skeleton and trying to figure out, okay, is this male or female? Is this a female with a stronger jawline, or is this a male that's maybe not as strong in the male features? The pelvis is the dead ringer. That is the best way to say this is the difference between a male and female. And when this says this is the only place where there are differences for childbearing, so this is the only place where the bones are different specifically for reproductive functions. As we can see here, see if you could take a guess for a moment, which one of these is male and which one of these is female. So we have a pelvis right here, and we have a pelvis right here, and we can see that they're different from one another. And see if you can take a look, without, reading the text below, and say what's different about these? What makes them different? And what does a biological female body do that a biological male body does not? So here we have an explanation. A female pelvis has a wider opening, a larger pubic angle in the front, broader flared hip bones. So we got the broader, more flared hip bones right here, and I'm giving this away. And the sacrum is straighter and less curved. So the sacrum's back here, it's less curved. And so we have this wider opening here because she has to pass a baby's head through the hips. So female body has to give birth, or if she goes through the full reproductive process, as women have from time immemorial, well, she has to pass a baby through these hips. Now, of course, living in modern times, we do have options like C-section, things like that. And of course, not every woman in history gives birth, but if a woman chooses to go through the full reproductive process, that is what this is for. She is going to be able to pass a baby through here. The male, on the other hand, he is structurally different. So he's never going to pass a baby through here, obviously. And these hips and his overall skeleton and his muscles, they're more designed to work, tend the garden, hunt, gather food, defend the female if needed. So the male body is a lot more designed for strength and stability, whereas a female's entire body is very, very much designed to be able to carry babies and give birth to the next generation. And of course, after she gives birth, she has the capability of breastfeeding, which males naturally do not. All right, so we've got a few activities for today. You are going to have model bones available at each desk, or each bench, I should say. However, we're having a snow day, so it is what it is. And you're going to have the option to look at them and identify them as a group. If you would like to do this next week, after we are done with the muscle unit, you are more than welcome to it. We also have some additional resources available that were not available in previous semesters, and I'll go over that when we meet again in person. You're going to use the lab guide to take notes and follow the activity from anatomylearning.com. So we've got a lab guide and we've got an activity packet. So you will need both of those. They are available in the content section of my courses. If you've taken a lab with me in the past, you know exactly where to find these. If you have not taken a lab with me in the past, You can talk to your lab partner, or you can shoot me an email. Most of you have had me in the past, so you know exactly where to find these. And anatomylearning.com. This is an app where the skeletal system should be free. However, lifetime access is only something like $20. I think it's actually less than that. So this is something that is required for the course. We don't have a textbook for the actual lab. However, we are learning using this app. So do yourself a favor, get anatomylearning.com. I've had students in the past try to work around it, and well, they might be able to, but I mean, spend the $20, make your life easier, save yourself the time, and also this is a very good app. It'll help you learn the anatomy a lot better. And at the end of the day, that's what you're here for. You're here to learn. You could work your way around the system and show everybody how smart you are. However, I would suggest actually getting this. And so you're going to fill out the worksheet. So you have the lab guide, and the activity is in the worksheet. So fill that out and then go from there. So finally, as usual, you're going to use the worksheet and the study guide to answer the questions in the quiz section of my courses. Like I said, this is not an actual quiz. It's just very convenient for me to give out the packets, digitize the assignment, and this benefits me because it means that I don't have to take 50 packets home and grade them. It also benefits you. How does it benefit you? Well, you have more than one chance to get the answers right, so you might have 2 or 3 chances. That way it's not you handed in the packet, I took it home, I spent hours grading it, I brought it back to you, and you're like, oh, professor, I should have got that one right. Can I redo it? Well, by giving you more than one chance to do it, you can just go right ahead and do this. So if you take this in the quiz section of my courses and you do the 2 or 3 chances to get it right, I don't remember how many it is with the skeletal system. It depends on which lab we're in. I might give you more or fewer chances. But if you go in there and you get the full points on the second try, and then the third try you get fewer points, it keeps whatever your highest score is. So if you got a 7 out of 8, or whatever the grade is, and then you get a 6 out of 8, it's going to keep the 7 out of 8. So go on there, use all of your chances. If you are really struggling with it after one try, come talk to me, because I don't want you to use up all 3 tries and you're totally confused and you don't understand what's going on. So that is how we operate with this. Also, check with the professor to confirm that your digital submission was received before leaving lab. Well, we're not able to do that today, so if you submit it, it should go through. Check your grade book, and your grade book will have your grade for it. And if it appears in your grade book, it should appear in mine. And if you're concerned about any issues later on, take a screenshot, and then we will be able to go from there.